Hello, welcome to Let's Talk Taxes Tuesday with myself, Nafisa Manira. I am your tax attorney who rescues businesses and individuals with tax debt and trains the next generation of attorneys, CPAs, and enrolled agents to do the same. Welcome back. We're so excited that you have decided to join us for another exciting episode. And this particular episode is going to be entitled, Who Qualifies for IRS Tax Relief? How can you make this determination in minutes instead of hours? So let's get on and talk about it. We want to focus on today. Number one, what is IRS tax debt relief when they talk about that? You want to know what they're talking about. Number two, what are the most common methods to go about giving your client tax debt relief? Number three, what are some of the tools that you use in order to be able to determine this? And then the most important, what are the three questions that you can use to quickly determine where your client lies and what option might be available to them? So let's jump right in and get started. Okay. First, we want to look at when they talk about IRS tax relief, what are we really talking about here? Well, what we're talking about is relieving the client has come to you and they have tax debt problems with the IRS. Either they received a notice or it's already progressed to a certain level where now they are, maybe their bank accounts have gotten levied, right? Maybe they put in liens on their accounts, liens on their property. They've gotten some type of notice or action from the IRS letting them know, hey, you owe us and we want our money. So IRS tax debt relief, what a client is looking for, they're looking for what? Relief. They want to get that debt either reduced, eliminated. They want to get the situation taken care of. That's what is meant by IRS tax relief. And what type of options do they have? There's only six main options, right? The first is going to be full pay. Can a client pay fully right now? That might be an option. Option number one. Can they pay over time? That would be what's called an installment agreement. Can they pay? Maybe they just want to get it reduced a little bit. That can be accomplished through penalty abatement, where basically you are eliminating, reducing your client's debt by eliminating some of the penalties that the IRS has assessed your client, right? Maybe you want to reduce it or almost eliminate it through an offer and compromise. And this is kind of like the most popular thing that you hear a lot about in the media, right? But fun fact, even though I know y'all hear all those commercials, radio commercials and advertisement about pennies on the dollar for OIC and offer and compromise, the truth of the matter is the IRS accepts very few offer and compromise. Just to give you an example, for 2024 fiscal year, the IRS only accepted 33,000 only accepted 33,000 OIC applications were received by the IRS. And of that 33,000 that was received, they only accepted 7,200. So we're talking about 22% acceptance rate on the OIC or offer and compromise. But again, it is an option for your client. Another option that it might be suspended. It may be your client may have circumstances or situation where you can get that debt, where you can get it suspended, collection activity suspended. Your client still owes it, but there won't be any further collection activity. Those are called a currently non-collectible status. Maybe your client can just get it eliminated altogether. And this can happen through bankruptcy, right? Depending on the circumstances of your client and what type of taxes we're talking about, you may be able to get that tax debt eliminated through bankruptcy, right? So those are the main options that you have for relief for your client. And so our next thing that we want to talk about is, okay, so how can you make this determination? The client has came into your office, you want them to do something quick and dirty, um, qualification for them, right? Now, there is the IRS pre-qualification tool, which is available on irs.gov that some people use to determine, hey, if the client qualifies for offer and compromise OIC. But for the most part, I know I generally don't use it. I use it when I first started, and a lot of people generally don't use it because they have software that can do it just as quickly, or they have software that can offer um, that same type of analysis, right? So it's no need to input into irs.gov and then got to input that same information into your software. So let's get with the three questions that you got to ask your client in order to be able to determine this quickly, right? The first question is going to be very obvious. Can your client make the full payment? That's the first question. Because sometimes your client comes to you, maybe they can't pay that week, but maybe they can pay the next week. Or maybe they can't pay that month, but they can pay the next month. Or maybe they can pay they just need about 2 months to come up with the money, right? So then that means that you're going to have a certain strategy that you're going to use, or a certain method that you can use to be able to buy that client time for that 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, 120 days, right? So they can afford to pay. That would be able to afford to pay the full amount right then and there. Okay? That's the first question. The second question that you want to ask is, does your does this client have a real hardship? Have they suffered any type of health issues? Their spouse had health issues? Any dependents had health issues? Medical issues? Did they suffer a layoff? Any type of job loss situation? Some clients had suffered from addiction, so they had that situation that they had to deal with that caused them to lose a lot of income, right? Some clients have businesses that were closed down but still owed a lot of payroll taxes, and so those payroll taxes which were unpaid by the businesses now were assessed against them individually, right? And so that could be the situation, right? So you have to determine, is there a hardship, and does your client have sufficient documentation for that hardship? Because that will also affect which solution that you would use. And the third question is, does your client's asset and income kind of disqualify them from the compromise, right? Because you will come across some clients, anytime you're dealing with offer and compromise, you're dealing with two main components. You're dealing with the income component, and you're dealing with the asset component, the asset equity component, right? So it could be a situation where your client really doesn't have sufficient income, but they have a lot of assets. And generally, let me give you an example how this might happen. This might happen if you have a client who has a lot of equity in their home, right? Maybe they're on fixed time. Sometimes this happens with my seniors that come to see me. Yeah, they may have equity in their home, but they can't access that equity because they don't have sufficient income to be able to get a refinance or anything like that to be able to get money out of that particular asset that they have, right? So these are the questions that you can ask your client. This is a general framework to be able to quickly try to assess where this might be going. You still have to do your due diligence. There's still not going to be a one size fits all. This isn't about just filling out the forms, asking these three questions and just filling out the forms. No, this is for you to be able to have initial assessment, right? To give you a certain framework to be able to determine what direction you need to take in terms of requesting additional information from your client, as well as which alternatives or options you may be moving towards with your client, right? And then the next thing that we want to look at also too is what tools you might be using. So, of course, if you're doing tax representation for your client, you're representing them before the IRS, you're going to be either using these particular forms, which are financial disclosure forms. That's going to be your IRS Form 433A, 433B if they own the business, 433F. F is like a shorter version of the form, but this is basically a financial disclosure. You're going to be using this form. You're going to be using any type of national standards. This is usually called the IRS collection financial standards. The IRS has different financial standards for living expenses, housing, for car, for your assets, life insurance. It's a whole bunch of standards that the IRS has. This is what you're going to be using. These are some tools, and you're going to be using software. Now, there are two main software out there for tax representation. I'm not going to go into each one right now. That would be another video that we can do, right, on analyzing the pros and cons of both of these software. But most tax practitioners who do IRS representation use one of these two softwares, which has a lot of this information in it. So that's going to be the tool that you use, right? And then the last thing I want to tell you about is that you have to keep in mind that we are professionals, right? And integrity matters. So you must know when you need to refer, or when you're able to represent a particular client. Okay. So I do want to make sure that I uh, talk about this and just mention this just a little bit, because sometimes you may need someone to assist you, or you may just need to refer it if it's something that may be too difficult for you. Okay. So that's just going to depend. But you as a tax attorney, you as a CPA or EA who specializes in tax representation, your responsibility is to represent with integrity and represent in a responsible manner. And understand that tax representation isn't just a checklist, right? It's not just a checkbox. It's not just a let's fill out the form. Okay. You have to be very strategic in how you go about it, because you don't want to cause your client to be in a worse situation than when they came with you. And you want to make sure that you're giving the best representation that you can for your client, right? And when in doubt, make sure you always assess, you research, you refer, because your judgment is your value, right? So that's all I want to say to wrap it up today. I hope this was a benefit to you. And if so, make sure you like my channel, subscribe to my channel as well, so that you can be notified, right, whenever I post these videos, which Let's Talk Taxes Tuesday is posted every Tuesday, of course. And comment in the comments. Let me know in the comments what are some topics that you would want to see or want to know about, because we can talk about it all. I've been in this business since 2010, and I've been an attorney since 2000. So I've seen a little bit of all types of situations in this area. So call me or contact me. You can also go to my website, taxroadmapusa.com, and contact me and put some comments in there. Let me know what type of topics y'all interested in. And I can go deeper on these topics as well. So till next time, next week, I am Nafisa Manera, and this is Let's Talk Taxes Tuesday. See you. Have a prosperous week. Bye.